I think that the introduction of a national security law in Hong Kong is long overdue. The reason we know this is because Article 23 of the Basic Law indicated an urgent need for the Hong Kong legislature to introduce a national security law. And this has never occurred because of every time it tries to get introduced, there's a lot of rioting and chaos takes place led by separatist and pro-independence groups. I think what made this such an urgent law to introduce now is what we saw last year in 2009. The level of rioting in chaos reached a critical level where there was a lot of destruction of property, a lot of violence against Hong Kong residents, and an amplification of foreign interference in Hong Kong politics. China really had no choice but to act and close this loophole in national security, and it needed to introduce this law for this reason. I think there's a few reasons we can understand the national security legislation as being completely legitimate. Firstly, the Sino-UK Joint Declaration gives China complete autonomy over the areas of defence and foreign affairs in Hong Kong. And obviously national security falls entirely within China's jurisdiction in this respect. National security it comes under defence and foreign affairs. Secondly, the highest political authority of Hong Kong is the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, and they have the right to interpret the Basic Law, especially on matters that have an impact on China's sovereignty, which obviously national security does. This is specified in Article 158 of the Basic Law, and Hong Kong and Macau have representation of the National People's Congress, just like every other part of China. Lastly, China's constitution has a legal basis for this. Articles 31 and 62 of China's constitution give the National People's Congress the power to create special administrative regions and decide what types of systems they use. Well, the national security legislation won't change the principle of one country, two systems, but I believe it will change in the sense that it will improve one country, two systems. From the time that Hong Kong returned to China in 1997, we've seen a lot of foreign interference in Hong Kong politics, as well as local Hong Kong political activists who are unhappy with the situation. They've used the principle of one country, two systems to create disturbance in Hong Kong and to undermine China's sovereignty over Hong Kong, as well as undermining Chinese sovereignty in general. This legislation is intended to improve one country, two systems by closing a loophole in national security and preventing any types of interference that jeopardizes China's national security. I guess the real question is, when we say that Hong Kong has a high degree of autonomy under one country, two systems, we can only see this as changing one country, two systems if we equate autonomy with an ability to interfere in Chinese politics. If autonomy means self-government or using a political system to govern local affairs, then there's nothing about this law that's going to change one country, two systems at all.